Well, Julian, we do have a new smog monster burning oil wells in Kuwait, so hold your breath. Yeah, ecological terrorism in the Gulf. Well, we've had eco-terror in comic books for years. Lex Luthor and the Joker have threatened to poison our food or water time and again. And ecological terrorism has spilled over into Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Aquaman, and the Submariner. And look for Superman in a prestige format, one-shot comic on recycled paper called Superman for Earth. Sounds like a fair trade. But the first real green comic was the groundbreaking Swamp Thing. Steve Bissette, it's the commander. When Alan Moore joined you and John Toddleben on the book, how did Swamp Thing evolve ecologically?
I clearly remember the first letters that were exchanged between Alan and John and myself. And it was a matter of finding that we all had arrived at separately the same definition of not only the character, but the potential of the character in the book. We saw it as being almost a Jungian archetype, and that Swamp Thing was an earth elemental. And that's what he was. This was not a man trapped in a monster's body, which was this pathetic note that had been rung like a doom bell since the first issue of Swamp Thing. He was of the earth. He was the earth given the shape of a man so the earth could communicate and interact with us.
When you guys left Swamp Thing, most of the ecological concerns went too. You'd think DC would latch onto an issue that's so topical, even, dare I say it, important.
They could have done a lot. You know, Greenpeace picked it up for commercials. And Swamp Thing definitely has the potential of being, to put it crudely, the next Smokey the Bear. But that'll never be pursued because the owners of the character have no interest in that aspect of it, unless it's going to tender some cash.
Ah, yes, the businessman's favorite green product, money. Thanks, Steve. DC has a few characters who could take on eco issues. Floronic Man, Black Orchid, and the Chlorophyll Kid. Sounds like a breath freshener. Ty, it's Rick. You've done a few ecological comic projects. Tell me about the astounding origin of the Chlorophyll Kid.
The secret origin of Chlorophyll Kid doesn't have much to do with ecology so much as it has to do with being really stupid. He leaped into He jumped into a vat of hydroponic mutant chemicals that caused him to have the power of plants, mostly because he couldn't read, and it said, "Danger, do not get in." He thought it was a hot tub. It was an embarrassing moment for everybody in his family. I did a thing for the Canadian government, specifically Environment Canada. They asked me to design a mascot for them, and I designed a mascot called Walter, the terminally ill raccoon, who was a really cute, adorable little raccoon who walked around with his own traveling IV tube, and who was coughing up things and basically complaining that the environment was going to hell and it was all your fault, and did some what I considered pretty funny material on it. But the government didn't find it funny, and they not only fired my butt, they actually tried to get me deported until they found out I was a Canadian citizen.
Well, keep up the good work, Ty. Bye. If superheroes seem powerless against pollution, there are ecological stories in alternative comics. The black and whites are full of greenies. Look at Puma Blues and Slow Death. And last year, Concrete did an Earth Day special. And in the new series, he'll be getting on an ecological soapbox. Let's hope it's a strong box. He's no lightweight. And then there's the ultimate green byproduct, those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Laird and Eastman's early comics were not exactly whole Earth adventures, but in the new Turtle movie, we learn our heroes in the half-shell were a product of their environmental disaster, carelessly discarded toxic ooze and deadly radiation. Don't you love New York? Now the forces of evil have stolen the remaining ooze, which was left lying unguarded in a lab.
Big mistake.
Oh. Yes, radiation leaks, chemical waste, oil spills. Will technology save us or kill us? Should we construct or conserve? In science fiction, that dichotomy is often divided between hard SF and soft SF. Gregory Benford is a hard SF writer. Gregory, it's Commander Rick. Will technology and its waste byproducts destroy us?
Technology gets a raw deal at the hands of many environmentalists because they seem to see it as the villain. But it's worth remembering that, for example, the Middle East and Northern Africa were destroyed by human beings several thousand years ago, not through highly advanced technology, but through an irrigation system that eventually broke down and didn't work very well and salted the earth and so forth. We've been transforming the ecology for about 10,000 years now, ever since we invented agriculture. I don't think environmentalists really plausibly propose that we go out back to pre-agricultural times. And so the real problem is always, how do you manage technology? What we need is not less technology, it's better technology.
I'd like to see two things work simultaneously. I'd like technology that takes a little better care of the planet and produces less ash, and I'd like some technology that will clean up the mistakes of earlier and more primitive technologists. They're now talking about a new discipline called nanotechnology, essentially building incredibly tiny little replicators on the scale of, say, cell size or smaller. And it'd be real neat to have a little robot you could build and drop in your bloodstream and instruct it to multiply until it has reached N population, and then begin running up and down your bloodstream looking for cholesterol, fat, and converting that to, say, alcohol, or whatever you find agreeable. And there's no reason we couldn't do that on a planetary scale, too. Make a little replicator that likes to eat whatever airborne pollutants there are, and then go to a specific spot and excrete ozone. Or, you know, we can fix them things. We can turn the ash into good stuff if we have the right technology.
Of course, that's been science fiction's answer to every problem. More neat gadgets, please. Now it's being tempered by a new ethic. Less is more. It's a difference in attitude that's defined by writers like, say, Larry Niven and Louis Shiner.
When you look at our environmental situation, first of all, it's our technology, or the misuse of technology, that's caused a lot of these problems. And we keep looking to technological solutions for it, thinking that we can build little laser cannons that'll shoot the CFCs out of the stratosphere, and all these pretty ridiculous ideas. And no one seems to be willing to just abandon the idea of control.
Ecologically conscious, I am. It doesn't mean I go out and pound spikes into redwoods so that people will be killed when they saw them down. This is a whole different attitude.
There's a book called The End of Nature by Bill McKibben that influenced me very strongly, both because his arguments are so convincing that we're in real serious trouble, and because at the end of the book he says, well, we're doomed, but if we weren't doomed, here were some of the things we actually should have done. And the kind of life that he pictures there, in which you've turned your back on acquisitiveness and greed and are trying to live more in harmony with the planet, was really charming for me, and I thought it was a nice idea, and so did McKibben. He basically says, even if we've only got 10 years left, I think we'd be happier living this way than to pursuing a lot of materialistic goals, because that isn't making anybody happy anyway.
Put it this way, I tend to take an optimistic viewpoint in most cases, and if you like the optimistic viewpoint, you may consider that our present inroads on the ecology are going to result in our learning how to terraform a planet, a thing we will need to know if we are a successful species. We will start by terraforming the Earth.
It doesn't surprise me that that's Larry Niven's attitude, actually. I think there are a number of possible scenarios. One is Larry's, that we go ahead full steam and that our technology always stays one step ahead of disaster, and we end up with terraforming. Another scenario is that we go full steam ahead and the technology does not stay one step ahead of disaster, and disaster is exactly what we end up with. I don't know which of these scenarios will come about or if it'll be another one. It scares me a little bit. But part of the reason that it doesn't scare me enough is that I don't really know enough to be scared. There are contradictory reports. You hear that the greenhouse effect is warming the Earth. Then you'll read something 2 weeks later that says, no, the Earth is actually cooling down, and the greenhouse effect was a mistake. For the layman, it's difficult to pick and choose among these things and try to find out exactly what is happening, or even if anybody really knows exactly what is happening.